guys have kids who are similar ages, so I'm going to ask you both. When you guys became dad, did you think this was the culture you would be raising your kids in? Did you see it coming, or did it kind of hit you like a ton of bricks?
It hit me like a ton of bricks. I mean, I didn't get married until I was 35, didn't have kids until I was 30, didn't have kids until I was 35. So I was very much in the military, deployed a lot. Like I was in a bubble, you know, I kind of was in this, I think more of a traditional America, you know, and that was my focus. And I just figured, hey, I grew up in Portland, Oregon, for God's sakes. I figured, hey, I'll just, you know, wherever we end up moving, like we'll raise our kids there in the public schools. Like they'll go to schools with the people I work with. Like some things on TV seem bad, but overall things are probably okay. So yeah, it was a rude awakening.
Was there like a moment that you felt like you noticed you had to intervene?
COVID, just the COVID era, you know, especially, I was living in Portland because, like, long story, my late wife was in the military. She was killed as well. She was killed in the military. And so I moved back to Portland briefly, right as COVID happened and right as the riots happened. And just talking to the people that I lived around, who were nice people, good neighbors, but they were like, hey, like there needs to be riot. We need to give them space to have riots every night. And I'm pretty experienced from my background. Like I understand what anarchy and violence is pretty well. Like, I'm like, this is not the direction this is heading. This to me seems
Mr. Former CIA is it's a no from me.
Yeah. I mean, after it went on for a couple of days, I'm like, this very much has the hallmarks of like a violent revolution, a color revolution, however you want to categorize it. Like it reminded me of the post-Saddam era in Iraq early on. And the fact that like I couldn't get that through to my neighbors, because if I brought up any of these things, they'd be like, you don't think Black Lives Matter? You know, it's like, no,
I don't think
guys,
that's what I said.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that we don't want our city to burn. And so that's when I was like, I'm getting the heck out of here. I'm going to a more rural environment. And then just everything that happened with COVID, when I started looking at, because my kids were my oldest was getting ready to go into kindergarten. So I really started looking at the public schools, and I was like, oh my God, this crap is everywhere. And I didn't realize how much it had just penetrated even in the rural school districts, but they still are controlled by the state to a certain extent.
They're obligated to meet state standards.
Yeah. That's the thing about being a parent. I mean, you really can't, as a parent, you can't just sort of like tune things out. You kind of have to start paying attention.